Today, at long last, I'm back working on my E46 and it's a really big day because today I'm going to try and do my first startup in about 3 years. So there's a few things that we need to tick off the box first. First, I'm going to drain some of the oil that was in the engine and I'm going to put in some fresh liquid moly and I'll change out the oil filter. The oil that I'm using to fill up is the Liqui Moly. It's a new generation and I don't know if you can read it on there, but it's the 5W40. Generally I found the 5W40 is a really good grade for the driving conditions in Brisbane. We don't get that cold in the winter. In the summer we can get as high as 40. So this is a good viscosity oil for my application. Now I'm also using the K&N Performance Gold oil filter. For the first startup, I'd have preferred to have just used the MAN, but if you watch my earlier video, there's a link up above there. I actually destroyed for that video the last MAN filter that I had, so this is the only one I've got in the garage, so that's what's going in, but I really love it. It's a nice red colour, comes with a red O-ring as well. Really great quality filter. So if you're into some performance driving and drive just that little bit harder than the average Joe, then the K&N filter is a really good option for you. Costs you a lot more, but certainly for that added engine protection, it's worth the dollars. So I've whacked those in. I've got about a bit over 6 litres of oil in there. As you could see in the clip there, I've thrown a bit into the oil filter housing as well, just to sort of help things along. So that's all done. Also, because it's been sitting around for a long time, I've got to put a new battery in, so I'll put that in. And then before I do a startup, I'm going to pull the fuse for the fuel pump, crank it over a few times, just to get a bit of that oil circulating through the block a little bit before we do a fire up. So I'm going to work on that, and then we're going to get behind the wheel, put the key in the ignition, and see if she fires up. I might be being a bit optimistic that it's going to fire up the first time, but you never know. Maybe I got everything right when I started fiddling around with it. So let's see how we go. G'day everyone, my name is Michael Taylor and welcome to another episode of 64 Motorsport. As you can see, we've got some new toys in the garage on the channel, and I'm thinking about doing another channel just for the motorbikes to keep it separate from the cars so we don't bugger up the YouTube algorithm. But anyway, you're here to learn about what's going on with my E46 project. So let's dismount and get the camera set up and we'll give you a run through what's going on, because as you can see from that prequel or the earlier footage, the first startup didn't go so well, but then again, first startups rarely do. So let's run through what's going on with the E46. As you can see from the footage, the first startup didn't go as I wanted. I kind of hoped that I'd have put the new battery in, turned the key, and I would have at least got some sort of fire up going. Hold on folks, we got an appeal on that last play. Yes, it looks like we... your microphone's upside down, mate. Yes, it looks like we have a creator's appeal on that last bit of footage. Oh no, it appears we may have captured a nose pick in that last frame of footage. Yeah, what they're looking for is any sign of nasal penetration. Oh crikey, they're taking a really close look at this. Yeah, look, they're going back and forward over this footage just to see where that finger is in relation to the nasal area. Well, yeah, the repercussions if he's found guilty of a nose pick are quite severe. He could face a 6-week ban from filming and a thorough investigation in terms of what actually happened with that booger once it was removed from his nostril. Whether it's been flicked at somebody, perhaps wiped on a piece of equipment, or even worse still, consumed. Oh, no, look at that. It's quite clear that there's no nasal penetration. It's just a wipe. It's just perhaps wiping a bit of sweat from the side of his nostril, so there's no actual penetration. That is good news, and appeal denied. The one positive is that it looks like my timing gear is okay because there was no valve sitting on the top of the pistons or anything, which was one of my concerns. So that's a good thing, but obviously I've either not got a spark or I've not got fuel getting to the injectors. So what I did is I ordered a new fuel filter to replace our fuel filter because the one that's in there has been sitting there for 3 years with old fuel in it. But the other thing I noticed was that I've got an electrical connector which is just floating around near the alternator and I can't work out what it plugs into. I must have spent 45 minutes to an hour underneath the car with a torch and with mirrors trying to find where this plugs in, and I can't see it. So that pretty much would necessitate having to start pulling out intake pipe work to be able to find where that connector goes, which is a fair bit of work because there's a lot of pipes crammed into an already tight space. I've decided to go to plan B, and the reason for that is there's always been a couple of little issues which I've not been 100% happy with on the build. By adding the extra horsepower, there has always been a couple of little things which I'd have liked to have done with the build to add a bit more strength and durability to the valve train, to the oil system, and also to the cooling system. So what I'm going to do is take advantage of the fact that I'm now in a position to do that and address those issues and go from there. So how am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to share with you my new plan. As you can see behind me, I've got some new parts. So I've been jumping online and getting a few things ordered to get ready for making those improvements to my E46, which I hadn't done before and I probably should have. When I put in the Schrick camshaft, I was never really happy with running the existing valve springs. I always had concerns that the original valve springs wouldn't cope with the extra lift and longer duration of the new Schrick camshafts. So in order to better cope with that, I've gone and ordered a set of Supertech dual valve springs, and I'm going to put those in. While I'm in there, I'm going to put in new valve seals and pretty much refresh the valve train. I've managed to pick up a intake manifold from the M54B30, and that came complete with a new throttle body and pretty much everything ready to go. The other thing on the intake that I haven't really been 100% happy with is the configuration of the intake pipe work. It's just really cramped and I really want to tidy that up. And given now I'm going to need the slightly larger intake boot for the larger throttle body, it's probably a good opportunity to have a look at ways that I can tidy that up a bit. When I did the oil pan gasket, it would have been a good opportunity to address the common problem of the nut that secures the cog to the input shaft on the oil pump. There's a couple of solutions to that. Most of them pretty much rely on upgrading the strength of the shaft and securing the nut with a tie wire. Once again, I've jumped online and I've got myself a new shaft assembly from Achilles Motorsport. or Achilles Motorsport. I'm not really sure how you pronounce it. But while I'm there, I also ordered a oil pan baffle kit. So I'm going to solve those two issues by removing the oil pan and fixing that up. And that's going to add a bit of strength and durability to the oil system on the E46. The next issue is that leaking gearbox. The gearbox has to come out to address that, and while I'm in there I've ordered a new steel single mass flywheel and clutch kit. That's coming from FCP Euro in the States. It's going to lighten up that whole drivetrain a little bit to add a bit of extra horsepower, give me a bit of extra biting power, an increase of roughly about 80% over the dual mass flywheel. And while I've got the gearbox out, I can get that leak addressed. I've got a new Moly radiator, which is going to provide additional cooling, I believe up to about an extra 30%, plus it's got the aluminium end tank, so I don't have that problem of a potential leak with the BMW plastic end tanks. And also I've got their Moly electric fan. And then the final issue I had that I never got around to doing was doing the subframe reinforcement. So the new plan is, and everybody sit down, engine and gearbox are coming out. The diff and subframe are coming back out. Then it's a matter of reassembling it all. So as you can tell, I've got a fair bit of work to get done along with the other projects. So time's going to be really critical, because here's the kicker. I want to have my E46 finished for the Summernats event in 2023, which actually kicks off in the first week of January. So I grabbed the calendar out and did a quick add up, and that gives me about 32, 33 weeks, which might sound like a long time, but as we all know, throw in a car build or a couple of car builds and life in general, and those 30 odd weeks are going to go by super quick. If you'd like to follow my E46 build and my X5 build, consider subscribing and ringing the bell so you get a notification each time I upload a new video. So I've got some really exciting projects scheduled for the E46 and for the X5. So there's going to be plenty of content coming out in the next few months on both those BMW builds. Also, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps out my channel if you do. And if you want to make a comment or have any questions regards either of the builds that are coming up, then drop us a comment as well. If you'd like to get caught up on one of my earlier videos, then I can certainly suggest you watch this video here. But YouTube will also recommend a video for you, and you just click on this video here. Either way, I've really enjoyed your company. Thank you so much for watching. But until we meet again, look after yourselves, stay safe, and TTFN.